Hello everyone, welcome back to the Rugby Paper Roundup. I'm your host Charlie, joined by Cam as always. Cam, how you doing?
Very well. Looking forward to a big morning tomorrow. Lions potentially wrap up the series. It feels like it's come quick, to be fair. With all the warm up games, and now it's suddenly the series could be decided tomorrow. But it's going to be a much more intriguing game than last week, I think.
Yeah, and just to quickly go back to that first game, how did you find it, and what are your main takeaways from it?
Very mixed emotions because it's a first test down under, and it was a 8-point win, and it was a game that the Lions you never thought they were going to lose, right? There was no point in that game where they were in trouble or you thought the result might swing the other way. But there was a point after that. I can't remember who scored. I think it was Sheehan at the start of the second half. After he scored, you thought the Lions could have gone on and score 40, 50. And they just didn't. They lost 14-3 from that point, and the momentum really got stunted. To be fair, after Joe McCarthy came off injured in the 45th minute or whatever it was, and the bench started coming on, Australia turned the tide a little bit, and there's a little bit of it's hard to say deflated feeling after an 8-point win, right? But there was just so much more, and the amount of butchered tries they had as well, and the outside backs, Keenan, Lowe and Freeman not having their best games was pretty unexpected. I don't know. It's just a bit what could have been game, but you can't be upset at a test match win down under, can you?
Yeah, and the fact that it was almost so disappointing despite being so comfortable is, in a way as well, a bit of an issue, because obviously you want these games to be competitive. You want them to be hardly fought. And obviously the Wallabies had a few injuries who are going to be back for this second test. But, it was underwhelming, really. And I hate to say that, because obviously it's something that we've been looking forward to for years. But just underwhelming on all fronts, I thought, especially from the Lions in terms of performance. But just the whole occasion, it didn't feel like a big occasion, or as big an occasion as it is and maybe should have been treated as. But 1-0 in the Test series is obviously a positive. But I do worry what will happen if the Lions do comfortably win again in similar fashion. Like what are people going to think? Because it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of chatter coming into the series, right? Australia haven't been in great form, etc., and talking about Argentina should get a tour instead, and France should get a tour. And you're right, it did feel flat in the first test. The crowd felt a little flat. I don't know if that was just because from really early on you could tell the Lions were going to win it, or something else. But I mean, as a Lions fan, 2-0, I'll be very happy. But you're right, for the series, it would be very beneficial if the Wallabies want to put some jeopardy into it. But it would be interesting to see what the reaction is if the Lions, produce similar performance and it's a comfortable win, and then we go into the third test with nothing on the line, really.
And you seem to have answered it then, but I wondered, because I have seen online a lot of people saying that, a lot of Lions fans saying that they might potentially want the team to lose just to make it competitive. I assume you're not in that camp, by the way you just spoke then, but are you in that camp?
No, I want it to be 50-0. I want it to be 2-0. I want to break the records, rewrite the history books. No, I completely get why people say that, right? Like you want a third test decider. You want some jeopardy. You want the excitement. But I want the Lions to win.
Yeah, no, I'd say I'm more in your camp than not, but yeah, it's more of a neutral view. I'd say that wants
which is completely understandable, right? Like if I was a neutral, obviously you want it all to build up to that one game. The week build up. If Australia win tomorrow, would be incredible. Looking to that third test decider.
Yeah, and I mean, given all the discourse as well, there is an argument to be made that if it is 3 like massive victories for the Lions or comfortable victories for the Lions. It could end up changing the face of the British and Irish Lions in terms of forcing them to potentially get France or Argentina or whoever involved. Because there's been a lot of talk of that as well, which obviously you've mentioned. But yeah,
there'll be a lot of chatter for sure, but the Lions will never go away from Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. Whether they add a tour, I still think it's very, very hard logistically, and because of tradition, etc. And obviously, this is just a bad year for Australian rugby. It's not going to always be the case. It's not something that someone can just decide and it changes. It's not going to happen. It would have to go through a massive process, and it would it'd take decades to implement even.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously part of the Lions is the tradition and all of that, and changing tradition isn't easy and might not necessarily be well received, even if right now change does look like the best thing.
Rugby has proven over the years that it doesn't like changing things and changing tradition, and especially if it's left to the Blazers who are in charge. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, looking ahead to the second test, a few changes from the Lions. What do you make of some of the selection decisions?
Yeah, I think Genge is a bit unlucky. I thought he was one of the best forwards. To be fair, every starting forward was great in the first test, but Genge in particular got exactly what you expect from him. Big carries, good in the loose. So I guess Farrell wants that impact off the bench, deploying for the last 30 minutes. But unlucky. Obviously, a few injury ones, right? To Pilotu with a hamstring strain, which is tough. And McCarthy out. Obviously, Chesham slides in, which no brainer. I guess the bench is the biggest talking point, right? You called it. Was it months ago now that Owen Farrell's in a Lions Test match squad again?
Yeah, I mean, potentially got a bit too excited at the time, but my excitement ended up paying dividends in the end. But yeah, Farrell back, very interesting. I think that is definitely benefited by Blair Kinghorn as well. I think if he wasn't in, then you'd probably have and Matt Hansen being injured actually as well. You'd probably have Marcus Smith there to cover, of course, fullback as well. But yeah, I mean, Farrell's done well so far on the tour. He's what you expect, and yeah, just experienced, composed, cool head.
You know exactly what you're going to get from him, right? Like, even though he's had a bad year at Racing, whatever, you know exactly what you're going to get from him on an international stage. And I think Andy Farrell is gearing up for a tight physical battle, and he's going to want that experience and IQ that Farrell has in the final, 20 minutes, that game management and cool head, because he's got it like no other, right, Farrell? So I think he's definitely gearing up for a war.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Jack Morgan's selection kind of alludes to that as well, because obviously he's had a tough time team-wise with Wales, but has been unbelievable individually. So he's one of those who Farrell probably knows that he can trust him in the trenches, if you will, and come off and make some impacts. Whatever.
I think that selection was pretty justified. I don't think Benno was great when he came on, and as you said at the start, the bench impact was not good, and the Wallabies sort of turned the tide. I think Benno definitely had a chance last game if he'd come on and played well to keep that spot, but once he didn't, it was a no-brainer to bring Jack Morgan in, given the tour he's had so far.
Yeah, James Ryan's a strange one for me as well. I'd have had Scott Cummings based on form. As far as I'm aware, he's not injured, but yeah,
Irish bias.
Yeah. Exactly. I think part of what fans are annoyed about the Lions in general this year has been that sort of Irish bias. I think I wouldn't say Farrell's made too many massive decisions in terms of starting Irish players, but on the bench and in the general squad, he does. I mean, he clearly has a preference, and that's fair enough because he knows the players better than the rest. But I think that does take the shine off it as well a little bit for some people.
Yeah, maybe the one you could put in that category as well, starting over Genge. I mean, every fan is going to have their say, right? Every fan's not going to be happy or less happy if their countrymen aren't selected over others. And as you say, he definitely has players he prefers, right? Subconsciously you work with more players, you understand them better, you'll lean towards them, and especially in situations like this, second test match, chance to wrap up the series. So it's slightly expected, I would say.
Yeah, and just going back to Genge and Porter, I did actually predict Genge to be on the bench. So I'm just
over there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take that one and put that one out there. But not because he wasn't good in the first test, but just because his talents might be better utilised off the bench. And front row's different, of course. Like they all get plenty of game time, even off the bench. So yeah. But yeah, and just out of interest, did you watch the Legends game yesterday?
I didn't watch the game, but I saw some very funny clips from it. Obviously, Drew Mitchell his hamstring and then chopping a pint with Curtly Beale on commentary is something that's probably never going to happen again. And of that failed midfield line out as well was pretty funny. Did you watch it?
Yeah, it was a very entertaining game. Obviously, what you expected.
There were some proper throwback names in that Australian side. Bruce won't forget. Matt Hodgson is one of my favourite players ever, who many people might not have watched or know. But playing Super Rugby Fantasy growing up, he was in my team every year, and I loved watching him play. There's a few throwback names.
Yeah, although I was looking out for Shane Williams for about half an hour, and it turns out he just didn't turn up. But he was on the team sheet, so I was looking out for him, and I was thinking, where is he? But yeah, and I mean, going back to the second test, is there any bets that you reckon would be worth putting on?
So I said this last week. I said Australia plus 11.5. That was too big, which, looking back, it probably shouldn't have come off given how good the Lions were for the majority. But it did, and I think it's going to be the same this week. Obviously, they got Rob Valetini back, who is, in my mind, their best player, definitely their most physical, which is what they lacked in the first half, in particular, that physicality and the presence of the gain line, which he'll bring, plus all 140 kilos of Will Skelton as well. So I think those changes will be enough to keep it close for the Wallabies again. And I think it's at 10.5 at the moment. I think that's too much. So I think the Wallabies will stay inside 10. As for a try score, I'm going back to the well. The well was dry last week with Hugh Jones, who just got brought down before the line and then had the double movement. There's a good clip actually of the bench with Owen Farrell clocking it straight away and everyone else sort of up in arms.
Yeah.
But I'm going back to Hugh Jones. He still puts himself in great try scoring positions. Has scored quite a few this tour. Obviously got inches close last week. So back to Hugh Jones, 2-1. I think that is. So those are my two best bets. Yeah,
and Hugh Jones is a good shout, like you say, very close to being on the try scoring sheet last week. It'll be interesting to see how he does with Bundyaki next to him instead of Tuipulotu. But he's obviously a class player, so I wouldn't be surprised if he manages to get on the score sheet.
This is the week.
You'll be staying this all 3 weeks.
Yeah, if he doesn't score this week, I'm putting that again in the third test.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, that's everything from us. So thank you very much for watching, everyone, and see you next week for another Rugby Paper Roundup.